I'm at Wellington. So we know that antibiotics are incredibly important to our medical system. We rely on them to treat common infections, and things like cancer chemotherapy, routine surgical procedures would not be nearly as safe without effective antibiotics. But more and more these drugs are not working. Bacteria are getting stronger because we're overusing antibiotics when we shouldn't be. A lot of the antibiotics that are being sold in the US are going to livestock, not to people, and it's usually on animals that aren't even sick. We need to stop misusing antibiotics to compensate for poor production practices in the meat industry and only use the drugs to treat sick animals. So we're calling on some of the largest meat buyers in the country, mainly fast food companies, to stop sourcing any meat raised on routine antibiotics, because that will spark the kind of ripple effect we need to see in the industry to protect our health and keep antibiotics effective for the future. Growing up for me, I always knew that I wanted to do something good. Mostly that came from how I was raised. My mom was born physically disabled because a pharmaceutical company didn't properly test a drug that her mother took when she was pregnant. So that was just always a reminder to me that industries have incredible amounts of influence, and they can do either really good things with that or really bad things with that influence. And so that was always in the back of my head. And then I found out about PIRG because somebody canvassed me on the street and started talking to me about their issues, and it completely clicked that this was the group that I could work with to actually make sure that we're protecting our health, that we're doing the right thing by people all over the country. And I'm really happy that I got the opportunity to do that as a career. One of the things I do is I direct our policy work nationally. So I'm working in Washington, D.C., pushing the FDA to institute stronger regulations on antibiotic use in the meat industry. I lobby our elected officials in the House and in the Senate to try to get legislation passed on this issue. I also work in the media, so we need to make sure that this issue is in the national news so that millions and millions of people see it and understand it and are concerned about it and then are more likely to take action. One of the big things I do is I just launched a project for PIRG called the Health Professional Action Network. Health professionals, mainly physicians, they're the most credible voices on antibiotic resistance. So I work with a set of doctors that are some of the top doctors in their fields. I take them with me to lobby decision makers. I have them present on panels at conferences with me all over the country. Lastly, I make sure that our vast field machine as US PIRG with hundreds of citizen outreach staff are all laser focused on what is our strategy to address antibiotic misuse, how are we doing that, and what's their role. So I coordinate all of that as well. I think my advice for anybody who's in college and is thinking, how can I make a difference on an issue I care about? First is definitely you have to dive into the work and not be afraid to get outside of your comfort zone. Because if you're not doing that, then you're probably not actually making a change. And then just think really hard about what you do next and make sure that the career that you choose is going to have the kind of impacts you want to see. Make sure that it's not just wishful thinking that you're doing. Make sure that wherever you work, whatever the group is, whatever the issue is, that they have a plan and you have a plan to get something done. And then work really hard to do it.